Imagine standing on a plain packed with millions of men, horses, and war elephants. They are armed, armored, and arranged in perfect formations. Yet there is absolute silence. This silence is the weight of years of failed diplomacy. On opposite sides of this field stand cousins and teachers who have exhausted every treaty. At this distance, the only thing left between them is the air they are about to fill with noise. We often think a war begins with the first casualty, but the actual rupture occurs earlier. It happens the moment a collective psychological threshold is crossed, making the act of turning back impossible. How does an army in this state finally break the tension? How do you move an entire civilization from a cold standoff into an irreversible bloodbath? It isn't triggered by a single accidental spark. It is the result of a cascading, deliberate accumulation of individual actions. For the Pandava alliance, the signal to fight was a highly calculated, sequential barrage of sound. It was designed to build, layer by layer, until it became a physical force. The Sanskrit text describing this moment uses the phrase prithak prithak. It translates to separately or one by one. The commanders didn't blow their war horns in unison, they sounded off individually. This tactical map of the Pandava formation highlights veteran kings Kasha and Viraka sounding their conscious first. These two nodes act as foundational anchors. Then, specialists Shikhandi, Drishtyumna, and Satyaki join from their positions, weaving their notes to thicken the acoustic wall. These men were Maharathas, warriors capable of engaging thousands of enemies at once. To the opposing army, each specific horn blast was an audible reminder of the lethal specialists they were about to face. This rolling wave of sound functioned as a tactical announcement. It forced the enemy to hear the specific roster of threats moving against them before a single weapon was drawn. With the front line established, the sound moves to the geopolitical heavyweights, led by the veteran king Drupada. When Drupada sounds his conch, it signals that entire allied kingdoms have moved past negotiation. They are throwing their total political and military weight into the conflict. The final layer comes from the youth, the sounds of Draupadi and Prince Abhimanyu. They take their breath, adding their voices to the chorus. Their participation signals that the older generation is willing to sacrifice its own future. The sound of the youth confirms that this is a war intended to end in total annihilation. This chart demonstrates the compounding effect of the sequence. As the veterans, kings, and youth stack their individual blasts, the gaps between the sounds disappear, creating a solid, suffocating wall of noise. By merging these factions into a single, escalating roar, the army proves that every level of their society, from the old kings to the young sons, is now moving in lockstep toward the same violent conclusion. The silence is shattered. In place is a unified roar that vibrates through the earth and the canopy of the nearby forests. Before the first arrow is knocked, the opposing army is forced to endure this roster of doom. They are effectively defeated in their own minds by a sound that details the exact strength and unity of their killers. Thousands of individual decisions to blow a horn have now become a single blunt instrument. The many have successfully transitioned into a singular one. This overwhelming acoustic event is the precise moment when the logistics of peace fail. The sheer coordination of the roar leaves no mental space for anything other than the upcoming slaughter. In any massive conflict, the point of no return isn't marked by the crossing of a physical border, but by the moment the collective decides to replace all words with an invitation to violence. The Kurukshetra War shows that the collapse of a civilization begins in the mind, at the exact moment when the noise of the collective makes the voice of the individual and the possibility of de-escalation impossible to hear.